Conduct an act of remembrance in Drumhead service today. I'll now call upon Brother Reverend Tom Gregg to lead the proceedings.
It's good to have the opportunity here to sometimes explain why we do certain things. Here this morning at the start of what would be a service, but I want to do a wee bit of explanation first. It's a long tradition in the United Kingdom here for soldiers in the field to pile the drums or to hold a drumhead service. It's an ancient ceremony and its origins lie back when colours have been presented and have been laid aside for the purpose, and maybe a chaplain or a priest in the service would bless the colours before they were carried into battle. What you've just seen is a typical example of what would have happened in the tradition. The snare drums would be placed such as this, the bass drum on its side, and sometimes a tenor drum or another snare drum on top, then draped with the colours. Many of the Commonwealth countries, armies and such like have followed this tradition for hundreds of years. You can imagine what would happen in a field of battle out in the field when the troops have no recourse to a chapel or church and have to make do with an altar. And of course the drums are convenient for that purpose. They're not only used in services, of course, the drumhead was also used for court-martials and other events. It gave the officers an opportunity to use them as a table. In battle, when desertion and treasonable acts were being judged, of course they would use the drums in the same manner by using them in the court-martial. Perhaps one of the things I would like to draw attention to this morning is some years ago, way back in the 1600s, at the formation of the Cameronian Regiment. It was raised in Douglas way back in the early 1600s. The regiment themselves were formed from the Covenanters. And what they done is when they were in the field and they were celebrating their communions, they would use the drumhead and they would cover it with a tablecloth or the colours, and they would of course have their communion services. These were a direct hand down from the days when the ministers and the members of the Presbyterian Church who held fast to the Scripture were driven out their churches and had to hold conventicles or services out in the field. These conventicles in due time became illegal, and the adherents were hunted by the troops and many put to death. They would post pickets before the service, and of course the Cameronian Regiment, formed out the Covenanters, were the only regiment to bear arms in the church because this rich history that they had. The conventicles that were held by the Covenanters and by the Cameronian Regiment throughout time is what I want to draw our attention to this morning. Indeed, it's hoped that we would maybe reenact a conventicle by going through what would happen at one of these services. There would be, of course, the opening in prayer, the singing of a psalm, and the reading of the Scripture. Let's bow our heads in prayer as we look at a conventicle.